Okay, we are on. Hi everyone, welcome to Hi Videocast. We are back at it again, and today we have a really special surprise for you. Not only we have our videocast expert and also UX UI designer at Thai Interactive, Natali Nascimento with us, and we also have a special guest from OutSystems. We have Menno Cramer with us. He is the head of solution delivery at OutSystems and he's also has a background on design and neuroscience and yeah, he's here to talk with us about UX UI design and working as a UX UI designer on the OutSystems environment and also the future of UX UI designer. And yeah, before we start this presentation, how are you, Natali and Menno? Are you ready to kick this on?
Yes, for sure. And thanks, Menno, for being here with us. I am really excited to this conversation and to learn with you, of course.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for the invite. And I would say, let's go.
Okay, so I wanted to start by presenting you for the ones that are watching us on our YouTube channel. Like, can you give us a brief presentation and introduce yourself, Menno, to the high interactivers?
Sure. So, hi, I'm Menno. Many people know me as the UX guy, which is the title I'm trying to get rid of, but I don't know if anyone in the crowd wants it. Um, So I'm a neuroscientist by training. My PhD was in the field in between neuroscience and design. So how can we, from a scientific perspective, understand how humans act and interact with the things around them? And the things around them can be very broad, right? So it goes from architecture to urban planning, all the way to the objects we have around us, like phones, or the actual apps. Because, and that's also how I got into the field of UX. What I'm really passionate about is understanding how people act and interact with things. And then there's one more thing, and then I'll stop my intro. Everything that we act and interact with is created by a brain and it's consumed by a brain. So everything around you that you see, unless it's nature, has been
Mhm.
thought of by someone, and you need to use your brain to interpret that too. And I think designers can learn a lot from understanding a bit more about the brain to be able to create experiences that really matter.
Okay, yeah, I find it amazing. Like of course, neuroscience plays a really big role in designing, but I didn't know that it was so deep in that point. Like for me, it amazes me. But yeah, man. But like talking about your work with OutSystems, and we'll go a little bit deep on this topic because. OutSystems is known for its low-code platform, and we I wanted to ask you, and also Natalie too, how do you feel that it impacts on the traditional UX UI design process? Because it is in fact a low-code development platform. What challenge does it brings to UX UI designers, and what opportunities does it present to the
Yeah.
designers?
So I think I I started at OutSystems as a UX designer in April 2015. Back in the days when our team was still very small. Um, and I think the challenge at hand was there immediately, right? So as a low code platform, you can do an application in weeks or months, or like the average traditional high code project that maybe takes a year on OutSystems takes maybe 3 months. And I have yet to find a CIO or CTO or a head of tech or a head of IT or whomever is in charge of the budget. I have yet to find someone who is willing to sign off on a 3 months UX UI research and design phase for a 3 months project. Whereas traditionally, the 3 months research and design and prototyping phase against a 1 year project, percentage wise, kind of makes sense. So, working for a low code platform that allows you to build and change and deploy things really, really fast has had to have us as UX designers reinvent the way how we work and really find a more pragmatic, faster way of helping the developers and the teams of what should be implemented, simply because we don't have the luxury to take months. That's, I think, the major difference what any UX designer working on outside systems has to think about.
Okay, yeah, but like you said, like you also need to be constantly adapting to the market and its needs, and be consistently updating your skill set. And that leads me to another question that I wanted to ask you, minding the OutSystems environment, that it's like, how do you see the role of these UX UI designers evolving in the future, minding the OutSystems environment? What like skill set will they need to upgrade to be up to date to things evolving, and uh, and so yeah, what do you feel about this?
So I think OutSystems is always changing, right? OutSystems lives at the edge of the
Yeah.
innovation that we see.
Eh,
So right now we see a lot of AI in the market coming in of what customers need in the apps that they want to create, as well as the way how we as designers work. Like, how can we use AI tools to make our design better and faster? But also tools like Figma are starting to change and evolve, right? So I think those are things that as a designer, you need to really be aware of what's happening. Um, Based on OutSystems specifically, it's really just keeping up with the curve of the speed of changing. Because also, if engagement managers or if tech leads can build stuff faster, if you're the one responsible for what they have to build, then your output has to change, or your control has to change, your um, quality checks have to change. So I think there are a lot of things about having to reinvent yourself in how can I cater to the ever changing product, and how can I cater to the ever changing teams as well. Yeah.
Menno, so you think that your background in neuroscience uh, really help you, like with the teams, to help them, well, in their approach, that we need constantly adapt ourselves, or we need to understand the environment. If in one hand we can really rapid prototype something faster
Yeah.
to give work to the development team. In other hand, we also need to balance that the customizability, and maintain the consistency between the user experience and all the activities that we feel the need to do during those processes. How do you think your background help you to adapt of this? Well, find a balance between these two needs. Be fast, but validate what we are doing.
yeah.
So I think having a background in neuroscience has helped me in multiple ways. I think one, it's really you understand a bit more about how humans act and interact, and how you can maybe predict behavior. I think that's a layer of the UX side that's very helpful. On the other side, naturally, I think it's quite a field with a high empathy, like understanding the other person, their point of view, their feelings, their being, their physical being, their mental being. I think that's something that helps. And to be honest, and maybe this is not neuroscience per se, but I think anyone with a sciencey background, or if you've done a PhD, you think in not in a problem and solution mentality, but in a H1, H0, as in, like, you have always multiple solutions to one problem, and you need to prove which one is the right one for which reason, and really have a more scientific approach, I guess, or really a more methodical approach of trying to get to the right answer. Whereas some UXers are a lot more about feeling and stuff, and they talk about like intuitive design. And for me, intuitive design is science. There's
Yeah.
a reason why certain colors are used for semantic colors, because the processing time in the brain is shorter. So like a red button you will understand quicker than a green one, and therefore it has a certain valence to the user, which then we as designers call intuitive design without knowing the actual science behind it, right? So I think that that has helped.
Be aware of
um,
it is really important, right? To be conscious about those decisions that we are making. Like it's like to have database decisions on our.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's also hard because you can't just say because red is the color processed the fastest, every primary button should be red. Like that doesn't work either, right? So I think it's a very thin balance between when does the sciencey approach make sense, and when do you need to look into it and understand it, and when do you just need to follow the process of research and the rules that exist in the society, even of what people expect, right? So I think a lot of UX is also about that.
Okay. Okay, I think I've also got it, man. And yeah, I wanted to talk about like that understanding that you were saying before, and I want to change the topic on another subject because like UX and UI design play a really diverse role here without working with our systems, and as we move towards a more distributed and remote workforce, like for example, I'm in Coimbra, Natali is in Lisbon, and you are in Amsterdam, and we are
I'm
here
in
working,
Amsterdam, yes.
we are here
Yes.
working together. Like, how do you feel that like UX UI designers can effectively collaborate with the development teams and also the stakeholders in an OutSystems project? How do you feel that like what should be the role, and how UX UI design can benefit by bridging the gap between all these three parts? Like, because at Interactive we really claim that a lot, and we have already explained that to our viewers that we really can make it happen, and we also wanted to have your point of view on it.
Yeah.
So
So I think the whole how can you work remote or how can you work in the distributed teams, um, it's not only to UX designers alone. I think every role involved has a important role here. I think COVID taught us a lot, and it
a
forced a
lot.
bunch of tools to evolve as well. I mean, um, everyone is now familiar with tools like Miro or like things like that, which is much more like an open, collaborative space where you can engage. In the future, this might be a VR space too. I think these things will come eventually. That might help some of the struggles that we currently have. Like one thing I find in project meetings and stuff, it's still like we currently face this kind of hybrid stage where, for example, for the vision, the workshop at the beginning, we would go on site for 1 or 2 weeks, because then you get to meet the people and you have dinner afterwards and you can walk around the facilities and the offices, and
And
you
it's
can
a
really
completely different
understand.
experience, right?
Exactly, and you can really
Yeah.
understand who they are, what are their quirks, like, because even sometimes, I don't know, you can see in someone's face that they want to say something but they don't, and these kind of physical attributes to human interaction as well, I think they're so much easier to learn um, in real life rather than Zoom. Partially also, I mean, I'm talking with my hands the entire time, but because it's below the screen you don't see
Yeah,
it,
we
so I
are not
think
seeing.
exactly, but it's like, but I think that there's a lot of communication which is not verbal and facial, right? So there's a lot of communication that's also posture. Am I sitting forward, backwards? Am I looking into the room? Do I feel comfortable? Do I have my arm on the chair next to me? Like when you're in a room, it's different. You have natural leaders and natural people that are more shy and natural, like, and there's much more of a, I don't know. I don't want to say power play because that makes it sound negative. But if you're in a room with 10 people, there's a certain kind of dynamic. And this dynamic in a Zoom call is not always the same because someone might show up late. There's an owner of the agenda when you're speaking. Like you can never have side call conversations on Zoom, right? There's,
Yeah,
unless you go to a breakout room, but like you can't. And in a meeting room, you can just quickly, hey, did you see what happened on slide 8? So, and that's like, so there are a lot of changes, but I think we came a long way. So we learned a lot of how to work in a remote setting. um, I've like we already used to do user interviews remote before COVID was cool, right? So we already used to do interviews, and if you use tools like Use or Zoom or whatever, they use people from wherever. Like it's not in person. So there are ways, but you have to be patient, let people finish talking, and pay attention to cues that otherwise you wouldn't see. um, and I'm personally still a huge fan for find an in-person reason. That can be a dinner with your team. That can be an on-site workshop with the project team. That can be like find something in real life, because that will teach you how to get the most out of your Zoom calls or out of your Google Meet or whatever.
yeah, and actually, we have got that experience, right, Natalie? Working with some of our UX UI projects here at Interactive, we came
Yes.
across this like hybrid methodology of working things, like
Yeah.
because
Actually, the last years, or at least the years that I work in here, we have the both visions. We have in one project that we were working on, we did an entire week of a inception design week to create an MVP with group activities, with a lot of participants. And we I've during that week that was entirely remote, I felt those difficulties because people started late and we needed to give context again. People that were not good using the tools that we were using, so we need to
Yeah,
pay attention as well so they don't feel aside of the activities. And the context that you were saying, like if I am here sitting and shaking my head, my leg a lot, you can't see that, but
exactly. Exactly.
I feel okay. I look okay, but I could be
yeah,
really nervous in here. And we have
Exactly.
the other experience when we went to a client for an entire week to do a sprint design week on site, and it was a completely different experience because, well, we were working together during the activities during the whole week, but we went to lunch together and talk about other things, and that created
Yeah,
a different relationship, and we were able to understand other things that remotely we didn't get there. We can do a good job remotely, but it's there are things that we still need to be able to overcome in a remotely work way, I think.
exactly.
okay,
One more thing on this. What we have found in the workshops that we do or in the sessions that we do, um, when you go to the customer and you're there with them, you can spend 8 hours a day with them or more, but you
Yeah.
spend the full working day with them, right? Getting someone to commit to have their team for 8 hours in Zoom calls, it's impossible. And even it's not healthy. Like even
Yes.
mentally doing a workshop of 40 hours on Zoom, like it's very heavy. Whereas 40 hours on site in a space with a whiteboard with whatever, it's much easier. Um, yeah,
okay.
but we have to learn, right? We have to evolve.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but yeah, I wanted to also address this because we are talking about these different approaches on not only the remote or presential ways of working UX UI, but also about OutSystems and how it works. Because at Interactive we have had many projects for many industry and many user groups. And I wanted to ask you this: that's like, how do you approach designing for such diverse audiences? Because when what methods you think should be the ones to use to gather insights and to do such thing?
So I always tell my team that, like, I don't know, even though you have done 20 projects in insurance or 50 projects in field services or whatever, you don't become an expert in the insurance industry. You don't become an expert in the
Yeah.
banking industry. You become an expert in creating solutions, right? You become an expert in going somewhere, understanding what's the problem, what's the real problem, because what they say what the problem is and what the actual problem is rarely ever the exact same thing.
Yes.
And for that, it doesn't matter. I don't need to know banking to go to a bank and be able to help them, right? So I think it's the,
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah, I'm amazed at what you're saying, because I think that like you needed some like requirements to fill every user needs for the
Mm,
different industries, but like as you were saying,
So
it's
I
not
think
like that. Yeah.
it helps if you're familiar with it and if you understand the jargon and the whatever, because that will speed. So you don't want to have conversations with the client where your inability to understand the industry slows down the discussion that you're trying to have.
Okay.
But for that, these days, you go to ChatGPT and you write, okay, I'm going to work with an insurance customer. Like, what are the 10 questions I need to keep in mind? What are the
Yeah.
10 questions they're going to expect me to know the answers to?
Yeah.
What are, like,
It will help us in
you
our
can
assumptions,
exercise.
right?
No, but at the same time, once you know the basis and you have an open mind, it actually
Hmm.
becomes quite easy. I think it's just also any good designer, they ask more questions than they speak, right? So it's helpful to, like, I'm here to understand the problem. I'm not here to narrate the problem. I'm not here to fix the problem, even not at this stage at least. I'm here to just understand how are things working, how are things not working, how do you make money, how do you lose money, how do you retain people, how do you acquire people, if it's B2C, how do you expand, how do you reach, how do you grow, if it's B2B, how do you optimize, how do you have sales, how do you have whatever. And these questions go across industries. So I really think that, yes, we have customers all over the world in all kinds of industries, and it's helpful. I mean, I can now go to a project in a particular industry, and I already have had similar discussions at least 4 or 5 times, right? Which makes it easier. As in, hey, by the way, with another customer, after 3 months, we learned this and this and this, and if you can bring that already on day one, you technically gained 3 months of mind evolution in this topic, right? So I think there is a lot to gain, but I always focus on the skill set and the knowledge that you learn is on the figuring out what the problem is and creating the solution, rather than update yourself with the new layer of industry terminology of the insurance business, because that's not so interesting and it will go outdated and it doesn't apply to every country.
Okay. And yeah, and like Natalie, do you feel that we work like this at Interactive? Do you feel like we get along with every type of industry and every type of user group mining this type of research? Because
Yes, I agree with what Menno was saying. We always need to, well, if we already have a previous experience, it's like when you approach this new client for the same field, you have your ears already prepared for the sound, the different sound you are going to hear. But you always need, even if you think you already know the answer, you still need to make the question why you do this, why you do this, or even to understand the context, because a company in the same field, they probably would do the same thing in a different way. So we need to understand that, we need to be part of that before we start to ideate on something. And I completely agree. And in at High Interactive, we we always try to do this. It's we always need to assume that we don't know and we need to ask again.
Okay. Yeah, but like, and I wanted to go a little bit more technical with you, uh, and like taking advantage of what we were saying before this, like, and talking about us at High Interactive, we really came along with a lot of industries, and we believe in an approach based on a design system kind of methodology, and design systems are benefiting also from OutSystems works, and they are gaining popularity in recent times. So, and I wanted to ask you, how do you envision design systems evolving within the OutSystems ecosystem, and how will they contribute for a more efficient and consistent workflow in design?
Me
Yeah,
first.
I am asking both of you. Like, how do you feel
You
like
are
it?
always first, Menno.
Ah, man. So okay, fine. So um, so I think at OutSystems, well, everyone knows or should know. If you don't, let's have a conversation afterwards. We have OutSystems UI, right? And OutSystems UI is the base kit of the patterns and the base kit of the front end skeleton um, uh, of what you can create and what you can design. This is fully extensible. You can put in there whatever you want, style it, put extra patterns, put sample pages, put whatever, and you can grow this to a larger, let's say, more proper design system. I think the design systems are primarily useful for larger accounts and larger projects or repeat projects that keep evolving. And we have a lot of customers also that start small. So they start with MVP or they start with project one. And at that stage, a full blown design system might not make so much sense yet. One thing that we've found is that once customers evolve, there needs to be this governance process between your master Figma file and your master style guide, right? So
Okay.
there needs to be built this process where there's almost a release cycle of your style guide that should be a one-to-one match to your design system at each point in time, but that's impossible. But one thing that we do see is that there's a lot more communication needed between UX, UI, and front end in order to ensure that this motion of creating, updating, and maintaining design systems is actually reflected in the OutSystems version of the design system, right? So I think the current style guide logic and methodology still applies, and it's even, I think the Figma version is the design system and the OutSystems version is the style guide, and there should be a one-to-one link, emphasis on should. But maybe Natalie, you have some experience with this too.
Well, yes. I think that the using when we are doing a project regarding a design system, there's something that is really important. It's the adoption part. Well, after we leave the project, who are going to continue to take care of that? Because it's just a small thing that needs to still evolving. In it's not going to grow by itself. So
Yeah.
we still need to have someone that are going to review the experience. We still need to someone that are going to see if this pattern is something that already exists and we can reuse something that we already have, or we need to create something new for that specific part of the experience. So design system for itself, it's not, it's a really great tool to start and optimize and create a consistency between the work between the different teams, the designers and the developers. But we still have work to do regarding the experiences and how users are going to interact with that. Design systems itself, not going to solve that part of the problem. It's an iterative process that it still need to be cared and looked for, to evolve and not to lose the the initial work. So it need to have
Exactly.
someone to take care of that.
Which
Okay.
is also actually why at OutSystems our style guide offer, and our style guide is called the Live Style Guide because
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah,
supposed to be alive. Emphasis
yeah,
on supposed. I've seen a lot of style guides that are built. They use them to build their screens. When you drag a button, it looks like your brand and look and feel and fonts and whatever. But the style guide itself, it's been put on a shelf, and we might come back to this account 2 years later, and the last edit to the file is from someone from our team. Like, I think a lot of style guides, even in the Figma side, but especially in the OutSystem side, they're not maintained that well and they're not updated that well. And it's often seen as a big effort to do, even though if you just keep an eye on it, like it's really not that much effort.
yeah,
But it's critical because that is, from a look and feel and experience perspective, that is the single source of truth for every developer, right? That's where they go.
Sure.
That's where they pull their stuff. So it needs an owner. Otherwise, it's just gonna end up on the shelf somewhere.
Yeah, like for those type of like works, like a lifestyle guide or even a design system, as you said, like for it to be put on the shelf and be left there, the work itself kind of it's unrewarding, because like you need to be constantly updating it, and that needs not only quality but also consistency and the ability to be always updating it and be up to date to what the market wants and what you can bring to satisfy like the users needs. And that leads me to also to another question, like how do you feel that like these designers nowadays can ensure that this quality and this consistency for the user experience can be done regarding an OutSystems application?
So I think the answer here would be measure, right? Measure data, measure impact, measure results, measure before you implement the solution, measure after. And that can be measuring yourself, like watching people, or you can use tools. Like it doesn't really matter how you find your answers, but I see so many designers that just, I don't know, someone says, oh, there's a problem here. They go, they build a solution. They probably didn't fully understand how the real life was before the problem. And then they build a solution, you go live and they go away and you don't see them ever again, right? And then, like, and you need to measure before and after. I think to good design, to ensure that the quality of the experience is there, the only output of that is the human output afterwards, the people using it. So reduced error rates, reduced onboarding time, increase in revenue, increase in efficiency, increase in employee retention, increase in acquisition, whatever the business metric was that was the real reason for this project to exist, that one designers need to hang on to. Because UX at OutSystems, primarily because we are a lot in enterprise, it's not necessarily about happiness of the employees, right? You don't need to make the button look better so they go home from work with a smile at the end of the day. Like, it's not, that's not the UX we do. It's heavy business process oriented experiences, because every person touching an application is there for a goal. What is the task? What is the goal they have to do? And this is a journey and this is a path you can measure, you can write down, you can understand, you can compare, you can benchmark. And that's kind of a a data layer that I think a lot of UXers can improve or can increase.
Okay. Okay, I think I've got it. But like now, speaking about the future, and like we are coming to an end of this high videocast, unfortunately. But yeah, I wanted to ask you, and I wanted to talk about the hot topic in UX design right now, and the elephant in the room here, that it's AI, and like the future trends on UX UI and the technologies. And I wanted to ask you, like, how do you see that AI can influence UX UI design regarding an OutSystems context? And like, what do you think will be the future trends and technologies that will come up regarding the OutSystems environment?
So I think, as I mentioned before already, I think AI is really present for us in three layers. One, there's AI in the product. How can developers be assisted in how they build apps? How can we have more data, more predictive understanding of the creation of the experiences? So, not the actual experiences, but within the core of the product itself. The second part where we see AI is customers wanting solutions that include AI, like the new connectors that we have on the Forge, or where you build applications that contain AI services, which I think UX designers need to understand. Okay, but how do humans interact with something automated, or how do they interact with something where I have two forms compared, and basically I need to provide a screen that just shows me the output of the AI model working rather than what the system needs, right? So how do I condense the messaging from AI back to a user? And the third part where we see AI influencing what we do every day, and actually we shared an internal one pager on how to use AI in our jobs, right? As a designer, as an engagement manager, as a dev, um, and I shared on LinkedIn a while ago as well, just as a joke, but I never want to see lorem ipsum again because I can go to ChatGPT and I can fill a table because I can just say, give me 10 postcodes, give me a random story about this person for my persona slide, give me a whatever. Like the effort of creating content has become so small, which is just a tiny example where the quality of your mock-ups and your designs and your prototypes might increase, as in there's no reason to have copy paste design anymore because the plugins in Figma or additional Gen AI tools can take care of everything. Um, I think as a designer, the first one is really OutSystem specific, right? What does the product do? What happens within the way how apps are created? You need to be aware of, but it doesn't really change your way of working. The second one, where the customers are asking for solutions, including AI, I think this is also important. Like, stay up to date with what's happening. What do you see happening on Dribble or in releases of the wider communities? And the third one, how do I use plugins in Figma, or how do I use whatever, or ChatGPT? It's a lot of trial and error. Like, I think prompting is already a big next thing, but if you don't know how to interact with AI tools, they're quite useless. Like, you need to learn how to interact with it. Um, Besides, eventually, maybe even you have a lot of startups. I haven't seen a major, massive, successful one, but you have a Galileo and you have a few other ones where you can just type like give me an onboarding flow for mobile banking, right? And then it just gives you a bunch of screens. As designers, I think that's something we need to look into. How can we use that? And how can we use it as an accelerator to the job that we do rather than a replacement of the job that we do? And how can we increase the quality and the quantity of the output of our work rather than sit back, relax, and Control C, Control V and pretend that you did the job for 8 hours?
Okay, so Yeah. So you feel like AI will just in will only play an improvement part on UX UI design, right? Yeah.
I think it's clever to try to ensure that um, we position it there. I
Okay.
think it can replace bad design really easily. You can already go and have a landing page designed just by give
Sure.
me a page and you're done. Um, the question is, how do you link the experience of that page to what the AI is being able to generate at this stage, combined with how do you accurately predict that the business metrics you're trying to influence are going to be fixed with your um, generated
So
designer.
yeah,
Okay.
agreed.
I also.
But I wouldn't exclude that in 2 years, 5 years, this discussion will be very, very different. So
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. But like, how do you feel that the conversation in like 5 years will be? Like, you think that like AI will take over and we will have a different conversation about this, or will you feel that like AI, I don't know, like we only took benefit from AI and we are working in a much faster way of building screens, interfaces, and so on?
no, I think the conversation will change in a way that if you just need a screen or just need an app or just need something, AI can do just that. Meaning all the dummy work will be gone quickly.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. That, that's a
Yeah,
great.
so
I agree. We shouldn't look at a bad thing as a UX designer or in other field or in other profession. We need to be able to adapt ourselves to new things, new ways of work.
and
This is happened with AI, but could happen with another things in the future, and we can easily be overcome with other things that we are not expecting. We need to be smart and learn how to work with that to bring more quality in our end work for our customers or wherever. In other thing that I want to add is we must also. Be cautious about the potential biases in AI algorithms and ensure that throughout the testings to deliver accurate and reliable AI powered experience. So guarantee that like the prompt that we use are going to give us reliable information and try to confirm that and not just use that as Menno was saying, copy paste and my work is done and I don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
just one note, I think yes, AIs will have biases and we need to keep an eye on it that it's right, but humans have also biases and they may
Yeah,
be greater
it's the
even.
same
So
thing
I
with
think
humans.
exactly. So it's like if you
It's
need to
exactly
check
the
the
same.
work of a human or check the work of AI, basically it means you need to check the work.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but yeah, it was a pleasure doing this
thank you
videocast
for
with
having me.
you, Menno and Natali. We are coming to an end. And for the ones that who stuck by till the end, thank you all and hope you enjoyed this videocast. We are planning to do many more with people like Menno helping us here talking about these topics that at Interactive we like a lot. And yeah, if you haven't, you can drop a like. We will be more than pleasant for you to do so. And if you have any type of question, you can drop them on the comment section of this video. Me, Natalie, or even Menno will be more than happy to see your insights about this conversation. And yeah, that's it. Thank you all, and see you on the next
Thank you
one.
so much.
Bye bye.
Thanks
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye bye. Thanks, everyone.